Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. In this video I'm going to be doing a more in-detail guide into what you need to become a web developer in South Africa this year from my perspective. In this guide you don't really have to learn everything that I mentioned. It's simply just on so you know what is what, and keep in mind that this is just advice based on my experience, and it's not really something that's like a standard way of following what to do. So first we'll look at technologies that help me and what I used, and then we'll look at like trending stuff like frameworks and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's get started. First, the tools you'll need is a text editor on IDE, which are like Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, PHP Storm, and Visual Studio Code is free. It's from Microsoft. It's very cool, very powerful. It's got a lot of extensions which are very useful. And PHP Storm is what I use for work. Actually, it's not free. You have to pay for it, but it's also very powerful. And then you'll need your browser. Your browser will be Chrome, like Chrome, Firefox, IE, Microsoft Edge, Opera, but I only use Chrome and Firefox. I only use IE for work because I have to test other websites if they are compatible in IE, which is Internet Explorer. So that's what I use it for, but I don't really use it for my personal stuff. Then if you're into making your own designs, but if you're receiving designs from people, then you're going to need like your Adobe Creative Suite, which I usually mostly use Photoshop and Illustrator on. And also that Creative Suite also has an IDE, which is Adobe Dreamweaver. Yeah. Then for stuff like, in my case, running my dev environment, which consists of Vagrant, and I run a virtual machine on it which runs Ubuntu. If I had it on Windows before, but now I'm using Mac. On Windows before I had to install Git Bash, but on this machine I've got my terminal which is already works like Git Bash, and I also installed iTerm just to have two of everything, you know. And when you start learning, you're gonna want to start with the building blocks of your, which is really, should I say the easiest? Yeah, the easiest stuff is you're gonna start with your HTML, which is the bare bones of your website, like the structure of your website. Then you're gonna start doing some CSS, which adds some style to your websites, like colors and positioning stuff here and there, and, you know, making your site look prettier. Inside CSS, then you're going to want to learn stuff like Flexbox and CSS Grid, which are really powerful tools which help you with your layout. It's really useful. Then, just to make writing your CSS much easier, you're going to want to learn about CSS variables, declaring variables and where to use them. But I don't really use them in vanilla CSS. I use them because I use it's either I use Sass or I use Stylus, so it's very easy to declare variables there. Then you're going to want to learn to use your DevTools, which is your inspector on your browser. Yeah, the browser DevTools are I really use them when I'm really debugging, whether it's JavaScript errors or just seeing what CSS values will work where. It just makes you do stuff a lot quicker when doing them in the dev tools first, then implementing it on your actual CSS file. And then start diving deeper when you start learning about responsive layouts. And this too, like the other page, this also is a must learn. This, you have to know responsive design or layouts or whatever they call it. Setting viewports, making fluid width, setting your media queries, and using REMs or EMs over using just pixels. Then you'll have to learn what REMs and EMs are, and also just really work on your website with a mentality of mobile first, because apparently it's a lot of these websites are being accessed through mobile phones mostly than they are on like desktop computers. So that's why it's like when companies or clients really hire you to actually make a website for them, they actually want it mobile first, because they know that their customers are probably going to see that website on a mobile screen. They're more likely to see it on that than they are on the desktop. Then really after that you really can, after learning all that, you really can make like a page, actually like a static website. Then you're gonna start learning some of those frameworks and preprocessors, like the CSS frameworks that I know, and I use Bootstrap, but there's also Bulma, and I forgot what the other ones are called. They just make your building of the website really much quicker, because they already have like a grid layout that's already there. You just specify classes now, is what you do. They already have your grid layout, and they have a bunch of already styled classes, like your buttons and a couple of paddings, and a lot of stuff is already styled for you. So you can basically build a generic looking page which looks nice with no CSS, with just Bootstrap alone. You can. Then there's preprocessor scripting languages, which is like your CSS but more cleaner looking, because you can nest your styling, you can declare variables much easier. You have mixins, you have functions inside your CSS, but that gets compiled to vanilla CSS by like build tools like Gulp, or there's also one that compiles Sass. I think it's called Koala or something. So preprocessors, these are also very useful tools. Then you're gonna start adding some functionality to your website. But you can swap these around, because I really started learning about these preprocessors after using stuff like Sass and whatever. I just really jumped into CSS, HTML, CSS, then some Bootstrap, then I said JavaScript. And I'm not an expert in it, but I just know enough to do something. Then JavaScript really adds your functionality to the sites, like events and manipulating like what happens. You can like do stuff dynamically from your JavaScript that'll change stuff in your HTML. You can change stuff in your HTML dynamically through JavaScript. It's really powerful. Then you basically just want to learn what data types are, functions, loops, conditionals, learn what those things are, learn events and manipulating that DOM, then learn about JSON data. which you will really use when it comes to working with APIs. So that once you learn up to here, I would say you are like job ready now. Like I was job ready when I knew these. I didn't even know any SAS then. I only knew minimal amount of Bootstrap. I didn't know that much Bootstrap, but I only knew this much, and I thought I was job ready, and I started looking for an internship, which I got. Then started learning how to use SAS and stylus, and started learning some more Bootstrap and some more JavaScript. Talk about your JavaScript frameworks. Now we're still talking about like front end. This is client side stuff that resides in the browser. It is interpreted by the browser. You're gonna, if you already know, comfortable enough with all this stuff, then you can start learning some JavaScript frameworks like React, Angular. I remember seeing a comment on my first video asking about Angular. Shout out to that person. Thank you for that comment and liking that video. In Angular, don't get confused with trying to think that you have to learn Angular 1 then Angular 2. No, it's just don't bother with Angular 1 because it's like old stuff. A lot of things have changed from Angular 1 to Angular 2, so really just learn Angular 2 because you're probably never going to use that version of Angular which is now, it's actually called Angular 8, I think, but don't let that 8 throw you off. It's still Angular 2. It's just like another version of it, but the drastic change was between 1 and 2. So React, you can learn React 2, which is very popular now and is quite very in demand. Almost it's actually about the same demand as Angular in terms of like the job market. But as far as I've seen, Angular guys get paid like more. Yeah. Then there's also those are like client side stuff, but to learn those, you're also gonna learn a little bit of TypeScript and some ES. TypeScript is, I think they say it's a superset or whatever. I really don't know much about JavaScript frameworks. So let's jump into like server side stuff. Sorry about not having sliders. I didn't save my work. I had sliders for these. I just didn't save them, and I just saw now, and I'm just too lazy to start again. So let's talk about server side. Now, server side languages, server side tools are these things are interpreted by your server. They don't get to the browser. You don't get to see that code. Like, you can see your JavaScript framework inside your DevTools, but you won't see any PHP code or any Node.js. Yeah, you can. I think you can see Node.js. I'm not sure about Node.js. No, I'm lying. I'm not sure. But you won't see any PHP code or... So, really what you want to do when you start learning server-side, and server-side languages are really when you start working with databases and like users logging in and out, saving data, retrieving data from your database and stuff like that. You start using stuff like PHP, ASP, Node.js, which is also from it's JavaScript, but it's server-side JavaScript. Node.js then, or Ruby. I don't know any Ruby. I've never seen any Ruby code, but I know, it's server-side. And Python. Done a little bit of Python in Django, but not anymore. I'm more of a PHP. I use PHP in my SQL. I use LampStack. So let's start with what I use. So you're gonna start learning PHP and MySQL. So to learn that, I would advise you, if you're on a Windows machine, to download XAMPP or XAMPP. That will it's like a virtual, just creates a virtual server for you where you can run your PHP code, So that's what I used when I was learning. I don't know what you'll use on Mac for learning, actually, because right now I'm like, what I have for developing my projects, it's way complicated to set up. So I wouldn't recommend it for learning, like setting up vagrant boxes and Ubuntu and running PHP running PHP servers and but you just install XAMPP and run your PHP from that virtual server, and it also will set up your MySQL database for you. Then you can start creating databases and tables, and you start learning about that. And once you know how to structure your MySQL tables, retrieve data, like make queries to your database, which will come into your front end and populate your page with that data, then you can start learning stuff like Ajax, which is where your APIs comes in, where you start now seeing what APIs do. So you start learning Ajax. Now Ajax, what Ajax does is, you see, when let's say maybe you have a table of users, and you have like an input box at the top where you just enter like a user's details, and you click maybe add this user to this table. Well, without Ajax, with just PHP and your HTML, CSS, when you click that, when it retrieves that data from your database, it will refresh the entire page, like reload everything, then that user will be there. With Ajax, you'll do that query, but your page won't refresh. It'll just refresh that table, or that Ajax just refreshes what needs to be refreshed. It won't go back because what happens is, without it, when you hit that submit button, it will trash this page, because it'll trash these resources. Browser will go back and fetch everything, which is your page, your CSS, your JavaScript. It'll go fetch that again from the server back to here, which will load. But with Ajax, it won't. That page will stay there. It will just fetch what it needs to fetch, come populate your page again, which really is very good for user UX, like user experience. Your page will seem like it's much faster. So you start learning that. Once you're really comfortable with PHP, then once you know all that stuff, the sky's the limit. But you can choose. You can know it all if you can. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know any. I'm not very JavaScript strong. Like I don't know much React, or I know a tiny bit of React. I don't know much React or Angular or Node.js or Express, which is a Node.js framework. I don't know much of that, but I know PHP, MySQL, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Sass, Stylus, Bootstrap, jQuery, which is, I forgot to mention jQuery, which is before learning React. I'd suggest you do it, because you can use jQuery. Some people say jQuery is dead, but I don't think so. You can use jQuery if you're just building like your simple website with a couple of animations there and there. You know, you don't really need to now install like an entire React project. So okay, where was I? Got sidetracked. So when you're comfortable enough with PHP, then you start seeing a new world now with stuff like WordPress, which is a content management system. Things like even that also has frameworks, PHP. You'll see Laravel or CodeIgniter or Symfony. I use Laravel because it's much nicer, and you start seeing design patterns like MVC. I don't know any other one actually. I know there's functional PHP. I'm not sure about it, but I use MVC pattern in my projects, and they run Laravel. The other ones run WordPress, but inside that WordPress there's also Laravel, and there's a WordPress framework called Moses, which is built on top of Laravel, so it's very, very nice. So you start learning stuff like content management systems, which is Laravel, which is WordPress. You'll see stuff like Magento or something, yeah. So it's up to you guys which part of these things you see best fit for you. But I'd suggest that if you start doing this stuff, don't get too stuck. You know, you watch tutorials, because I also still do watch tutorials online, but don't get stuck in like tutorial mode where you just constantly just tutorials, and you're not doing anything. You're not gonna grasp anything if you don't do it. In this game, to be good at this game, you have to play it. You can't be good by just like watching other people do it. You have to play it consistently. You have to just play it in no time, and be patient, because you can't just learn in 5 days. Be patient, just build stuff, challenge yourself, and before you know it, you'll be in a good enough place to actually build some cool stuff with these things, So please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, like the video. If it works, this is just here to help you guys. I hope this video was better than the first one. I know I did a lot of bumbling there, but I hope you enjoyed this video. See you on the next one. Please leave a comment on what type of video you'd like to see on the next one, and I'll see what I can do. So thanks for watching.